Hey guys, Patriarchy here. Oh, Judd Apatow, you piece of shit. I'm kidding. I like Judd Apatow. In fact, I used to be a big fan of him. I loved Freaks and Geeks, and I loved Undeclared, and I even liked his first few movies. I think his recent work's been pretty crappy, and as a producer, I think he's been lacking for years. But, he's a Hollywood success story. You can't knock the guy for that. But in this Salon article we're going to cover, they're talking about this interview he had about conservatives and entertainment and Hollywood, basically, and why he thinks shows about Republicans, why shows about conservatism and their ideas don't work, and why a show like Girls is successful and deep. Girls. The funny thing is, this is a show he produced and all that. Of all shows for him to pick, to use as his example, he could have picked so many great shows like The Wire or Deadwood or anything like that. He could have just named off top of his head, done by a most likely liberal creator. Breaking Bad. He just had to go to, Girls. Girls is about this. And the characters grow, and, it's like, oh my god, dude, Girls was a piece of shit. I've been covering Girls since the beginning of this channel, Lena Dunham. There is not a more overrated, trashy, boring, pretentious show that failed in the ratings, that consistently did not grow a bigger audience base from season to season. It couldn't even bring in like 1 million viewers an episode on Sundays. They canceled other shows that were doing better before they brought Girls on, and yet Girls was able to run for like 6 fucking seasons. And it was only really critically acclaimed for like 2 of them, and then people still suck Lena Dunham's ass, even though her film career is non-existent. She has no presence in the media. She did not become a sex symbol, and that show, like I said, didn't grow an audience. Girls got less popular. It was its most popular in its first season. Okay, that was years ago, and I watched that first season. And like everyone else, once I got a little bit further into the show and started to understand Lena Dunham, where it's like, this show fucking sucks. She's a pervert, her storytelling's crappy, and this is all clearly about her ego and pushing messages like that, and it's ridiculous. It's her trying to push her body on you, her sexuality, find me attractive. It's aggravating. It's aggravating how insecure this woman is, and now she's just trying to push it on you. This is a woman who got criticized in the first season, right? For not having enough black people in the show. So what does she do? She starts season 2 fucking Donald Glover, just riding his dick for like a couple minutes at the opening. It's like, oh wow, great way to solve that problem, Lena. Just fuck a black dude, and he's a black conservative. Wow, great satire. But this pisses me off, because Salon here starts talking about Last Man Standing, the Tim Allen show that was recently canceled, and they basically say that it's not a good show. It's a bad show. They just proclaim that like it's a fact. And here's the thing. That's a show that I made fun of for a long time. I'd come in the living room and it would be on the TV or something, and I'd be like, what the fuck is this Tim Allen? Because I'm not a big Home Improvement fan and all that, but I'm watching, like, what is this crap? And I started watching the show. Okay, you have to understand, this show's a sitcom. It's still an old school laugh track sitcom. 98% of those fucking suck. I don't care if it's a conservative sitcom or it's a liberal sitcom. If it hasn't adapted to the modern day style of no laugh track handheld like Arrested Development or The Office, Parks and Rec, it's usually not up to snuff. The CBS sitcoms, the Chuck Lorre sitcoms, aren't great either. But they're like, Last Man Standing, it sucks. And I'm sitting there thinking, I didn't give that show a chance, and I started watching it. And I gotta give it credit, it actually has some funny lines. Let me be wrong, it's still a crappy sitcom with a laugh track. But the thing about the show is that it actually is one of the only shows on TV that's willing to make fun of liberal ideas or the left, or even make Obama jokes. And the thing is, the other characters, it's kind of trying to do the All in the Family thing, the liberals versus Archie's conservative ideas, except I've always felt All in the Family was sort of a failure in concept. It was a great show anyway, but because Meathead is wrong and Archie does come off right a lot of the time. Archie's supposed to be wrong, but sometimes he says something, you're like, yeah, Archie, that's right. That's how it is with Last Man Standing. He's got like a very liberal daughter and a son-in-law, and he works at a bait shop or some shit. I'm not sure. I've only seen a few episodes, and he works there with this black guy, and they argue about conservative ideas versus liberal ideas, and they show both points of view. And there's actually really funny lines, especially if you like. If you're someone who started to hate SJWs or regressives, they definitely hit jokes about that. And it's great how they actually go into welfare and college and free healthcare. And I think it's a decent sitcom. Like, once again, it's not a great show. I'm a guy who likes, HBO shows. Also, that comparison. This is a weird article. They go after Last Man Standing, and they're talking about, oh, the fans want it to be great. And then they go to Girls, which was this HBO produced show that really wasn't a sitcom. It was like a dramedy. And I can tell you right now, Girls is a much worse show and a bigger failure in its execution from its conceit than Last Man Standing is. For what Last Man Standing's trying to do as a show, it does almost perfectly. It knows exactly the audience it's made for, and it hits that mark. Girls couldn't even get all the love from the feminists and the Black Lives Matter and the activists and everyone. People don't support the show. People don't really like Lena Dunham. And it's like HBO didn't get it, Judd Apatow doesn't get it, and Salon doesn't get it. Am I supposed to sit here? Am I supposed to think here like, oh yeah, you're right, man. I wish more conservative shows were as good as Girls. And I understand the argument here. A lot of religious movies and Hallmark Channel shows and stuff that's produced by the right does fucking suck. It's bad. But here's my argument to that. Most of the shit that's made by the left is shitty too. I mean, you gonna tell me all the sitcoms are good, that most TV shows are good, that most movies are good? They're not. There are great ones, and yes, most of them are made by liberals, be it theater or even in film and all that. Liberals just seem to be better at making art. I'm not going to argue that point, but, and Salon tries to make the point that, oh, well, there's different reasons. There could be that there's a conservative bias in Hollywood. Yeah, no fucking shit there's a conservative bias. Are you kidding me? Okay, there's a heavy bias against conservatives and conservative entertainment. I don't know. Judd Apatow seems to say in his point that there's no... That conservatives, what he's trying to argue is that they don't want to grow and evolve. They think they're right. They come from the position assuming that they're correct. And that they don't want to grow and change and evolve. And Girls was a show about growing and changing and evolving. And it had a very... normal conservative conclusion where the characters grew up and changed. And he said that's where people don't get it. Girls isn't a criticism of liberalism. It's a human story about people. And conservatives don't want to do that. And he brings up how Mike Pence has to be this good upstanding guy. We can't find out who this real complex guy is. All I can say to Judd Apatow is, you're the same guy that I saw in an interview years ago that said specifically, you think that liberal Hollywood people would give all of their money to poor people and black people and everyone in the world and pay for all the health care and bring all the refugees over. And conservatives are lying and rich people don't want to help people with money. He says this. You can go look this interview up. Judd Apatow says, rich people don't give a shit about you and they don't want to give you your money. Any rich politician telling you that they want to help you is a liar. Even though most businesses, pretty much every entrepreneur, everything in the world's been supported by rich people. All the major companies that exist now that create jobs were pretty much started by someone that became rich and then paid for other people to work. Even the company you probably work for is owned by somebody with money. So let's just forget about that point. That's beyond the point. But Apatow said that liberals, because a guy called him out in the interview. He said, well, that seems a little hypocritical. Are you saying the celebrities would give their money? Apatow had the gall to say that the Hollywood people like himself, or let's say The Rock, or J.K. Rowling, Meryl Streep, Robert De Niro, they would give their money up to pay for everyone else, and they wouldn't live in their mansions that they all live in L.A., in gated communities. They get tax breaks like everyone else. They go on vacation. They go all over the world. They have private jets, Leonardo DiCaprio. And then they're on here telling me that they would give their money up to help everyone out? Well, then just do it, Judd. That was always my point. I think Sargon did a video on this a few years ago, but Judd had this ridiculous point. He claimed that basically rich liberal people would give all their money to everyone else and rich conservative people wouldn't, which is a straw man to say the least. And he never put his money where his mouth is because that guy's rich and he doesn't give even 60% of his money to charity or to helping people. I don't expect Judd Apatow to give his money to anyone. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to virtue signal, but be intellectually honest here. if you're trying to claim that J.K. Rowling is going to give up $500 million of her, $1 billion, $2 billion net worth, and then let refugees come live in her mansions in the thousands, I don't know what to tell you, Judd. It ain't fucking happening. You guys talk a lot of shit, and it gets really fucking old. And here's the difference between conservative entertainment and the liberal entertainment. And here's the hypocrisy in Judd Apatow's statement. He's saying that conservatives always come from the point of view that they're correct, and only the left has the moral grayness, the complexity to understand that it's not black and white. That goes against everything that Hollywood's been pushing on us for the last few years, and stuff that you've said in the past, like I just brought up. You assume that liberals are from the right automatically, that you're in the right side of things, and that conservatives are on the wrong side of things. And you're so, I don't know, you're just so narrow-minded that you think conservatives don't have a complexity or humor to them. Okay, Judd, let me throw this out there. YouTube. Almost all the progressive, regressive, leftist, liberal, SJW content stuff bombs in comedy and content in comparison to the stuff that isn't left-leaning or really even conservative. Like iDubbbz isn't one way or the other. But don't give me this shit that the left doesn't assume that it's correct, and we don't see that on, like, Stephen Colbert. If he's going to come out and criticize this stuff, then he has to do the same thing with these other people. But he would never do that. And it really pisses me off that Salon tries to word this where they're trying to act like they're fair and not biased. They come on like, there's no true answer to why conservative-leaning creators can't pair with major or minor studios to create GOP-friendly television and cinema. They certainly try. And the whole argument is a quality thing. Well, most shit that most people make shitty. It doesn't matter if you're left or right. It's, yes, on average, more people who make art are on the left. But it's, if you're trying to argue that that most entertainment from the left's good, most stuff's shitty now. And I think a lot of people in Hollywood are conservative, and we're finding this out more and more, and they're kind of in the closet about it because it's not that popular. So we don't know how many people that actually create things aren't as much of a liberal as you like to think there is, because they think in these black and white terms that you can't have conservative ideas and liberal ideas. What if somebody doesn't identify as either one? What if you're a director and you don't really think of yourself as liberal? You're just kind of like, what if you're a libertarian? This is ridiculous. Don't get me wrong, I think most of Hollywood is filled with, like, people that are closeted socialists, but even though they actually don't want to pay the taxes that would be required for socialism, and I guarantee you they don't want to give up the money, but they like to pretend they do. But at the end here, Salon says this thing, and of course it could be something else as to what is as well that's holding conservative entertainment back. But Apatow has given us at least a strong working theory for why red state content mostly sadly sucks. Well, blue state content mostly sadly sucks. Once again, yes, the good shows like Breaking Bad and The Americans and the movies, but yeah, most movies that come out throughout the year are shitty. Okay, and most of these these liberals, let's bring up Amy Pascal, right? She's always pushing these progressive things in her movies. Then you see in the Sony email she's making like black jokes about Obama and stuff. It's like, okay, so clearly she has a sense of humor and she's willing to say that stuff, but then she pushes these messages in the film she produced and stuff, and then Sony had to let her go. I mean, that just shows you right there that's this weird thing in Hollywood. I don't even think they know what the fuck they believe anymore. I saw Jack Nicholson, I was watching a Shining documentary, and Jack Nicholson said to the camera, a famous person meets 10 times the amount of people in a year that most people meet in their lives. Do you imagine how that would make you so detached from reality if you met that many people a year? It'd be really hard to even know, to even have a world. It's like that interview Robert Downey Jr. years ago where he came out of prison and he said in a New York Times interview, he said, I don't know anyone could go through what I went through, drugs, rehab, prison, and be a liberal. And then later on he was in that interview, and people think he got pissed at the guy because the guy was bringing up his past, but a lot of the questions the guy was trying to say, you said you were conservative then, and then Robert Downey Jr. said, I don't even know what liberal means. See, right there's another hint. Like, Downey Jr.'s a guy, like, I think he has some conservative ideas, but he's not going to come out and just say it. I think, I think there are Second Amendment guys there that are pro-gun and they don't want to say it, or they want to say, hey, I don't like this PC police bullshit. But you can't do that. You got to, he works for Disney. I mean, let's not forget, Robert Downey Jr.'s always been kind of punk rock, and that's one of the reasons we love him. But this thing Judd Apatow says, when you see Mike Pence, you think there's a lot going inside that guy. At least I do. Like, he actually has a nuance about... Dude, you talk so much shit on your Twitter about these people. They don't admit how lost they are. There's something dishonest to me about it. It's living a lie. So for someone say Girls is a critique of liberalism because the characters' lives might be disasters? No, those characters' lives are disasters because they're human. Oh, come the fuck on, dude. The show was just shitty. It just had bad writing. Lena Dunham was trying to get you to celebrate her shitty life, and it just became unbearable to watch. Like I've always said, if that show had a male lead and all the stuff Lena Dunham does on that show as a female was done by a male, that show would have been canceled within 2 seasons and people would have went crazy over it. It's fucking nuts, the stuff her character does on that show. You think Heisenberg was a bad person? But I love this. And there it is. The conservative viewpoint indeed has difficulties admitting fault, admitting weakness. Are they pretending that the left doesn't have the same issue? That they don't admit fault and weakness? When the hell does the left at these award shows or on Saturday Night Live or on CNN or MSNBC or any of these programs admit fault? What the fuck are you talking about? This is ridiculous. Like your Salon, of course, I love it. They frame it like as an objective article, but they're being insanely biased. They're not being self-reflective. It's like, you guys, this article's even presented as if you're correct. Oh, but Judd's giving us a good working theory. So much of what makes good television or movies hangs on character development. And in many ways, the conservative viewpoint only allows characters to develop in one, mostly unquestioned way, toward faith and complete confidence. Just even the fucking opening line to this article. Last Man Standing is not, despite the protestations of its red base, a good show. It doesn't matter what the red base tries to say, this isn't a good show. Well, Big Bang Theory is fucking awful and much worse than Last Man Standing. And the fucking left Tumblr SJW crowd loves that goddamn show and Sheldon Cooper. So where's your fucking Salon article about that shit? Could Judd Apatow come out and talk about all these crappy shows Chuck Lorre's been doing for 10, 20, 30 fucking years? Jesus Christ. He pretty much is CBS. It's the Chuck Lorre Broadcasting Station or something now. I think that's what they should change it to. But then they bring up Hacksaw Ridge and how that was a success. So there are those rare cases where it can happen. Yeah, you notice how Mel Gibson got, like, shunned in Hollywood for about a decade? You know, where they pretty much said, hey, we don't want to work with you anymore. And then he comes back and makes a awesome fucking movie that gets Oscar noms. And he's a conservative guy. That just shows the bias. I think that explains a little bit more of the issue here. I think The Passion of the Christ is a good movie. I think it's a fucking crazy movie, and it's kind of like torture porn and schlocky, but it's amazing in that way. It's like, it was amazing to be a young man and go see like an NC-17 level film with that kind of gore in the theater and be sitting there with old people and little kids. It's like, this is amazing. This is what I want American cinema to be. This is fucking rock and roll. Christians kick ass. Only Christians can somehow make something like this a mainstream movie. Fuck Disney. Fuck the Marvel stuff. I want this. Jesus getting, like, watching a guy get his eye eaten out by a fucking bird. That's my kind of Hollywood cinema. That's Werner Herzog's Christ movie. Kiss my ass if you don't like that Mel Gibson flick. He somehow got audiences to all go see a guy get the shit beat out of him for like 2 hours. Just get the fucking shit beat out of him, and everyone went to go see it. That man is a mad genius. But beyond this, I don't know what to say. Fuck Salon. Judd Apatow, you've consistently been a hypocrite, so I don't even want to hear you talk about this stuff anymore. And your movies really, really, they're over-bloated messes that I think are really good now in retrospect because you had these actors that were really good at improv, and just that last bit of you that was capable of being funny came out in like 40-Year-Old Virgin, and bits have knocked up, and then you never had it again. Because Judd thinks of himself as a fucking artist, and it drives me nuts. And even though The Big Sick's out, and they thought The Big Sick was going to be this big, huge movie, and it's really not doing that great. They're actually not making back the money they put into the movie. Judd's just... This is what Master of None does better than these shows. Master of None's a happy show about being a leftist and a progressive guy, Aziz Ansari. Even though sometimes his politics and stand-up pisses me off. His show's about being a good guy and being good to people and nice and trying to understand people's point of view. Girls wasn't about that. And Judd's movies really aren't about that. And a lot of films you'll see throughout the years, like in Easy A, where they make the obviously, laughable conservative Christian character in Amanda Bynes, and then Emma Stone's character is all cool and hip and now. That's how a lot of these messages are. Why doesn't Judd talk about whenever conservatives are presented in left messages or in left message movies and shows, it's usually as a crazy religious fanatic or something, like in The Mist. I mean, nobody's really being fair. And yeah, I wish conservative entertainment was better, but hey, you could say Christian movies aren't good. I can name a good Christian movie. It's called The Fucking Exorcist, and it kicks ass. And the movie's actually, at the end of it, as Quentin Tarantino said, it says that film, the thing about it, Pauline Kael pointed this out in a review, that film isn't a success because it makes you believe in the devil. It's a success because in order for you to believe in the devil and believe that they beat the devil, that means you have to believe that Catholicism is the one true religion. That's fucking badass. William Friedkin made a pro-Catholic Church movie. It got everyone to go see it. I love it. Hollywood could still do that. They just don't want to tell those stories. Because they view religion as this fanatical thing now, or as a thing to mock. Not as, hey, remember how that priest was a three-dimensional character in The Exorcist? But these are just my thoughts. You can leave your own thoughts in the comments section. Maybe I'm overanalyzing this, but I feel like Solange just putting it out there. This is just so, I don't know, it's so arrogant. I hate it. But like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.